Hello and welcome to another episode of Love the Darts. This week we are talking about our top 5 moments from the 2024 World Cup of Darts. And alongside me we have Colin Lloyd and Michael Bridge. You all right?
You all right?
I'm good. Right, Lloydie, we're going to start with you because you have picked out one of the moments from the host nation, Germany. They did very well in this match to just get over the line, really. But it was Gabriel Clemens and a big finish from Gaga.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, the significance of it, 3-3. Hupe Pohar and Ben Robb are sitting on 42 to get a fantastic victory. Up steps Gabriel Clemens, treble 20, 14, bull. I mean, the expectations of hitting it are huge, but to actually hit it under that much pressure with not so much the pressure of the people they were playing, it's the pressure of the expectations of the home nation crowd. And he pinned it fantastically well, and he was so calm about it. But in the context of it all, it was a huge, huge shot. And that sent them on their merry way to sort of like settle down and get themselves involved in the tournament.
Yeah, I think they probably would have been disappointed actually to go out to Northern Ireland in the end, because I think they had, I remember chatting to Martin Schindler a few weeks ago, and they had really sort of big hopes, at this tournament. And the fact that it's played in Germany as well, they love playing in front of that German crowd. Yeah,
that's exactly right. They're both proud Germans. They're great friends. They feed off of each other. I sometimes think that, I mean, as huge as Gabby is, he plays like second fiddle to Martin. Martin seems the more settled of the two players. And I sometimes feel that Gabriel Clemens sometimes feels the pressure a little bit more than Martin, but they keep each other calm, and they're a great pairing, and I think they're going to be a pairing for a number of years in Germany.
Yeah, very well said. Michael, you have picked out Gibraltar beating Spain.
Yeah, I mean, it was, quite historic for Gibraltar. It would have meant a lot to Gibraltar.
Yeah.
We know, actually, when I first met Lloydie about 14 years ago, I was in Gibraltar, the Gibraltar Darts.
Oh, wow. You guys go way back.
Yeah, I've got a photo of me, Lloydie, Kev Painter. It was in some hall, wasn't it, Lloydie, where they used to play it. I mean, it's no longer on the European tour, but they love their darts in Gibraltar, and without getting in too political, I mean, that would have meant a hell of a lot to them. Justin Hewitt and Craig Galliano. I know Craig, he's a big Tottenham fan, so I'm always glad to see him. He's always flying over. They work ever so hard. So, it was an exciting match as well. Gibraltar missed darts, Spain missed darts. Then Gibraltar going on to win, and, the celebrations, you'd have seen how much it meant to them. Yes, okay, Gibraltar didn't go on to qualify, but look, we know in other sports, football, for example, Gibraltar, it's very difficult for them to compete, even in a match, unless they're playing a San Marino or a Liechtenstein or something. So for them to go and beat Spain would have meant an awful lot, and something they'll remember for a very, very long time.
Yeah, really well said. Lloydie, you've picked out Italy. It was a historic tournament for them. I mean, they topped a group which, on paper, was a pretty tricky group, really. USA in there, Portugal as well. And then they beat the former winners, Australia, in a last leg decider, and it was dramatic.
It was dramatic, absolutely dramatic. And listen, it just goes to show, like I said earlier, that you can't take any nation for granted anymore, because they're all capable. The nice thing for that partnership was one of them does have a tour card. So all that experience of playing on the circuit against what we call the pro big players, that keeps him settled, and he can keep his partner settled as well. But I think their performance against Belgium as well was huge. They took a 3-0 lead, and they had opportunities to get through that match as well. Can you imagine us sitting here now saying that they've taken out not only Australia, but Belgium also? I mean, they only lost to Belgium 8-7. And they were brilliant. I think they could be very dangerous in years to come, because I know they love their darts in Italy, predominantly soft tip. But the dart fans over there and the dart players over there that have seen these two guys have that run and the performances that they've put in, hopefully that will give them the incentive to start playing a lot more steel tip. And who knows, maybe we might have a Euro tour over in Italy.
Yeah, that'd be cool, wouldn't it? Bridgie, you've gone for Peter Wright and Gary Anderson teaming up together once again. I think they're an iconic duo, aren't they? So it's just good to see them up on that World Cup stage together.
Yeah, I mean, like Peter Wright won it the other year, didn't he? Went with Hendo, and then I remember Peter being pleased for Hendo. But now it would be, if Peter'd won it, it would mean a lot to him because it was a difficult few months for him in the Premier League. So, and look, Peter and Gary know each other extremely well. Now, Gary, the way Gary is at the moment, very laid back. Things aren't getting to him as much as they used to. And that will make him a dangerous player over the next few months. So it was good to watch them. Just seeing them walk on together. The Poland match, the Sweden match, the back and forth against Sweden. I mean, Sweden, they'll really rue that kind of missed opportunity. And the 7 perfect darts. I mean, they played some really good stuff over the weekend. So will it spur Peter on over the next few months? We'll wait and see. I don't think personally it has that much bearing on them individually. Saying that though, I like what I saw in Gary, and then of course, Peter getting to the latter stages gave them that sort of
bite.
Gave Peter an opportunity to maybe say a few words to the English players, and then they bit back. So which we all enjoy, of course. But I think all in all, it was just good to see improvements from them collectively. But I'm intrigued to see how they get on individually over the next few months. I don't know how Lloydie feels about them individually and whether he can take much from it.
Oh, mate, I think you're exactly right. I think you've nailed it there. And listen, as and when England and Scotland compete against each other, I mean, sport wouldn't be sport, would it? If you didn't have that little bit of spice between the English and the Jocks. And like you've said, Bridget, like I said, you've summed it all up. But you look at someone like Gary Anderson and Peter Wright. Will it both give them incentive now to push on and have a big match play, have a big Grand Prix, and push themselves back up them rankings, the pair of them, to sort of like to have them jostles with the likes of Luke Humphreys, Michael Smith, Rob Cross, Luke Littler. Listen, we're going to be the ones that benefit from it because we're going to be working on it and we can watch it all
unfold.
Evolve.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lloyd, another moment you picked, Belgium beating the Netherlands. I mean, they didn't just beat them, did they? They thrashed them, and it was a good Netherlands as well in terms of their performance.
Well, I think at one point, Emma, like I said, I was spotting that game. And at one point there, the Netherlands were averaging about 107 and they were getting thrashed.
Yeah.
And people would turn around and say, well, the reason they were averaging that high is because the averages weren't coming down because they weren't losing darts at a double. So what? Belgium won't care about that. Belgium was spot on their game. They were scoring heavy and their finishing was sublime. The finishing was absolutely brilliant. I think it was him. He took out a 1-2-4 on the ball, and I think it may have been a 130 or a 126 on the ball in consecutive legs, and that just gave them. That's something they thought. Oh, Joe, what we could win this. They're gonna go up there with the attitude to win anyway, because that's the way those two guys are. They're winners. They don't just go up there to compete. They go up there to win. But they just absolutely gelled in that game. And let's not forget that Michael and
Danny,
they didn't slouch. They were still playing exceptionally well. They just didn't given the opportunity to put more legs on the board because that was how good the Belgians were with their finishing.
Yeah. Agree with that. I hope we sort of see Michael van Gerwen back again next year because obviously that was his sort of World Cup return. And hopefully they can have a run. But Belgium very good. It is just disappointing for them, I suppose, that then they went out in the next stage.
Do you think, Emma? Do you think? I mean, me looking in and me working on it, you working on it as well, and Bridgie certainly would have been watching it and keeping his eye on it all. I sometimes wonder if, even with the performance that he puts in, I don't know if Michael's overly keen about playing in the World Cup. It's not a ranked event. It's not a Premier League. And I just sometimes think that, yes, he's playing for his country and representing his country. But we've noticed with Michael of late that he sometimes says, well, listen, I'm competing on the tour. it's all about rankings and winning the tournaments and whatever, but I also want to spend some time with my family. So he likes to have a little holiday period. So what do you think? Do you think he's someone that will keep coming back year after year?
It's tough, isn't it? I think that's why it's not to say it was a surprise to see him play this year, but I think it was good to see him at the World Cup this year, and it's good for
very much so.
Well, for the others like Danny.
But Michael's an ultimate pro. I mean, if he's out, it's going to have to be something severe. You know, he is.
Yeah.
But is he devastated that he was out? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But obviously, it would be a concern if the likes of Michael, Gezi were all sort of pulling out at the same tournament, which didn't happen. But I think you'll always see Michael there.
Yeah. Bridgie, you have picked out Sweden, who just had a brilliant tournament in general. Jeffrey de Graaf as well had, I think, the highest individual average. I think he averaged 120 in one of his matches. So it'd be interesting to see if, someone like that, because we saw him at the Worlds and he was decent then, if they can sort of push on, I guess.
Yeah, I think out of all the nations you wouldn't really thinking about offhand for the first, I'd say Sweden. Gave Scotland such a good run, and they probably rue that opportunity. It was a bit of a missed opportunity in the end, but I think out of them, and you mentioned Jeffrey de Graaf, they're really impressing. So, will it help them individually going forward? But I think the tournament as a whole, they can be really, really pleased with their performance, narrowly losing to Scotland. So yeah, I think I wanted to use them as an example of the nations you wouldn't think twice about in this World Cup, and my vote there would go to Sweden.
And Lloydie, talking there about Jeffrey de Graaf and that high average, I think the second highest came from Josh Rock at one point. I know he really impressed you, and I think just from the off, he was just on it, wasn't he? He meant business, and he was just he looked like he didn't look like it was his debut. And I think him and Brendan Dolan really they were a brilliant mix. This debutant combining with this ever-present and a good sort of combination. I think Rod used the term fire and ice in commentary, which was, I thought, perfect, because Josh Rock does bring the fire, and Brendan Dolan at times can bring the ice.
No, it was interesting. I mean, obviously I've known Brendan Dolan a number of years, 20 plus years, and Brendan is a class act. He's a great player, but I think Brendan was saying a couple of times that he sometimes felt like an old man, and he felt like he was a little bit out of his depth. But listen, he qualified through right to represent his country, and he'll always do so with grace and ferocity as a player. But for me, Josh Rock, he was just the only other one really being Luke Humphries, and I'm not really going to compare the two, because obviously Luke Humphries went on to win the event with Michael Smith, and he's also the world champ and world number one. But for someone making his debut in Josh Rock, I thought he was sensational. I mean, they said Brendan was captain and playing the captain's role, and he probably kept Josh a little bit grounded. But I think there was a good few times there where I thought, who's captain?
Yeah.
Is it Josh or is it Brendan? And but no, listen, they were terrific. They were terrific together. They obviously feed off of each other. And the nice thing about young Josh is he's got the utmost respect for Brendan. He could see that there was a couple of times, in various matches where Brendan was struggling a little bit and getting a bit frustrated with himself, but he still fist bumped him and said, "Come on, mate, come on." And I like that. I like that, because it's being respectful and not putting someone down to say, like, if you were playing a little bit better, we'd be doing better. Young Josh isn't like that, and it was nice to see those two gel together as a partnership.
Yeah, that is what I absolutely love about the World Cup. Talking of partnerships that gel, you've gone for Austria, who had this, kind of unthinkable and unexpected run, really unpredictable run to the final.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone, Mensur Suljovic is one of the most popular players, and he gets a great reception whenever he's at Ali Pali. That phenomenal match against Michael van Gerwen a few years ago, and he's one of those, maybe a bit like Simon Whitlock. You don't see them every week, but when you see him, you like seeing him. And Rabi John Rodriguez, as you rightly say, they're a good pair. Getting to the final. Now, obviously, you're always going to be disappointed by losing a final, but you've lost to the odds-on favourites, the justified favourites, and they looked really good. So I don't think they should feel disappointed really at all. The winning dart against Guyana, China, the celebrations there, the 102 finish against Chinese Taipei, good finishes, good celebrations, clear friends, clear respect for each other. So there's a real dynamism there, which you sometimes need in a pairing. You get the so-called top players who maybe not particularly good friends with their partners, but because they're so good, they end up doing well regardless. These two are a good pair. Obviously, I think both in the 50s bracket in the order of merit, so it gives them a little bit of. We talk about like the likes of Michael van Gogh thinking more about where he is in the order of merit, but these players don't have to worry about it too much and just enjoy these tournaments at a weekend.
Yeah, I think you put that really well. It just shows, doesn't it, that this sort of what the World Cup can do. Because we were talking to Roby John on the podcast, and he was saying, like, I've known Mensah pretty much my whole life. I've known him since I was a boy, and he's basically like family. And it just shows that when those two players can come together, two players who get on really well, and it can galvanise you. You can have a fantastic run like that. Just lastly then, of course, the moment that you've both gone for, the top moment, England winning the final. And Lloydie, we talked up England. I mean, they had the world number 1, world number 3 in the squad. But when you've got to go out there and produce, there's no, on paper, anyone can win an event, but you've got to go and deliver. And they certainly did that. And I mean, Luke Humphries, especially in that final against Austria, he was just, cleaning up with those huge finishes, 4-ton plus outs. But they were a brilliant team.
They were, Emma. They were a brilliant team. And like you say about the 4-ton plus shot outs, excuse me, we've got used to that, haven't we? That's what we're used to being treated to by Luke Humphries. And I don't say that casually. That's just what he does. He's that good. Michael Smith is that good as well. Let's not take anything away from him. In other matches, he done his bit as well. But we don't want the final to be just remembered for the 4-ton plus shot outs. Both guys were just fantastic. Both are world champions. Both are world number 1s. And that speaks volumes. That gives you that extra little bit of clout when you're playing certain teams. But also, there was that gelling together. I know I keep saying that gelling together. Those guys come together. And the thing about the pair of them is they both know how good they are and how good they can be. And boy, did they be those players. Yeah. They just hit absolutely everything. And they didn't do any stress or fuss about it either. There was obviously the chat with the Scottish players. They wouldn't have been worried about that one little bit. They'd have just said, right, if we play our own game, we know we're going to batter you. And that's exactly what they went up and done. And lo and behold, they conquered. They went there and they conquered. And listen, if it's that pairing again next year, they're going to take some beating. If one of them falls aside, and there's the possibility of Rob Cross or Luke Littler playing with Luke Humphries, they're going to take some beating. I think we might see a dominant run of an England World Cup winning side for a number of years to come. That's my prediction here today. I think England now are so strong in the rankings of the PDC that I just really think they're going to take some beating over the next coming years.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dominant side back in the day with Taylor and Lewis. 8 years since England had lifted the title. But like Lloydie said, I mean, we don't know if Michael Smith will be in that pairing next year. Luke Humphries will be, looking at the rankings, but it could be Rob Cross, who's just on the cusp now and has been playing really well as well. Littler, who is making a charge already off the back of this ridiculous 6 months. But it does feel like there is something about England at the moment and their players.
Yeah, definitely. And God help everyone else if PDC decided to move it to a Manchester or somewhere like that, hosting it. But I know it's been in Germany predominantly, but they are. It does look like, I totally agree with Lloydie, potentially on a domination. Luke Humphries, I say it every time I'm on this podcast. He's the ultimate pro. He wants to win everything. He takes every tournament so seriously, and if he loses one, it's literally on to the next one. And he's not just saying it; he's literally on to the next one. And Michael Smith, he won't like people saying, "Oh, there'll be maybe someone else next year." That's up to them. That's the beauty of it. England have got some. They could easily have a very good B team, and a B team could get into that final as well. We know the quality of the English darts we've got, and there's no way you'll get a Humphries or a Smith, maybe slight shoulder injury, slight this, like that. pulling out. They wanted to be part of this. They wanted to show them. So yeah, I think they're in for. It could be a few years of dominance because we don't know what Scotland will look like next year. Wales, we don't know what will look like. We don't know what Johnny Clayton's form will look like. I look at other top nations, and I think a lot is up in the air.
Question marks, aren't there? Yeah.
Whereas England, I could probably choose a B and a C team. That's the strength England have at the moment.
Well, let us know your selections. Let us know those top moments that you really enjoy from the World Cup. Also, Bridgie mentioned there about imagine if it was in Manchester. I mean, that's up for debate as well. Should it move around? Should it go to whoever won it the previous year? Because that's an interesting topic. So let us know what you think about that. And as always, make sure you are subscribed to the Sky Sports Starts YouTube channel. We'll see you soon.